today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we're going to recap the Boston College game. Mizzou taking down BC 27-21. Me, Payton, and Kenny dove into it, gave our takes, the good and the bad, talked penalties, talked the secondary a little bit and some miscues, but also what we really liked from the defense and from the secondary. Talked about what Luther said, both about his penalty calls, about being disrespected, and obviously touched on the great game he had on offense. Talked about the running backs with Nate Noel looking good. Talked about how Brady looked. The offensive line. Payton has a good take about Mizzou maybe becoming a run-first team. So definitely listen to what he had to say on that. So we did a full recap, talked about that, and then finished with quick hits. We had Ken Sports Shorts, had a little recruiting-themed one this week, recruiting-themed quiz for Ken Sports Shorts. Had Tigers in the Wild, and then had headlines. Talked some college football, talked some SEC football at the end of that show as well, and just dove into it. So it was a good show, and yeah, good recap of the Boston College game. Now we got Vandy, SEC play. It's getting real for Mizzou, which we'll have, obviously, to preview that on Friday. But for now, enjoy the Boston College recap. The Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, September 16th, and Mizzou football is 3-0. They beat Boston College, a ranked game, which was forgotten about on Bleacher Report's tweet Saturday morning that had the slate of every game, trying to hype up college football. They just forgot about Mizzou Boston College. 27-21, the Tigers win. Not a very satisfying victory, I guess, especially compared to two shutouts, but a win nonetheless for a team that obviously has big college football playoff hopes. We're recording this before the AP poll comes out, so we'll see if Mizzou drops a little bit just based on what happened. We'll probably talk about that a little bit on Thursday. But 27-21, it was a ranked Boston College team, came into Columbia and kind of punched Mizzou in the mouth. I was reading to pull from Gabe DeArmond's Gamer that I read after the game. You know, he kind of talked about how Mizzou just came out of the gate slow. They went down 14-3. Sleepwalk was the word he used through the first quarter and a half of this game. Then scored 24 unanswered. Boston College gets a touchdown late to keep it, a little bit closer, but Mizzou ultimately wins out. Peyton, Kenny, I know you guys were both watching this game. I was not able to, and frankly, I was getting really superstitious to the point where every time I checked the score and saw Mizzou was losing, I was just like, I'm not going to check the score anymore because if I keep checking it, they'll keep doing bad. And so I muted a group chat that we're all in, and I did not look at the score until like the fourth quarter. I obviously went back and watched stuff, but what did you guys think? Was Gabe's assessment right? What did you make of the sleepwalking? I know we're going to talk penalties, but just thoughts on the game. Mizzou does ultimately get the win over BC.
Yeah, once again, and I know this was one of two ranked matchups this week, and it was the only one that was played on Saturdays, so I don't think Mizzou should be penalized at all for not for winning a ranked game by anybody, but it could happen. They could get leaped by Tennessee. We'll have to see. But it's just like what kind of we've said against Murray State and Buffalo. Missouri did not play an A game. They came out slow, like you mentioned. They kind of, like, if you just look at all of the things that happened in this game, Boston College scored 21, and they were probably very lucky to score 21. Mizzou, again, it really just turned into Mizzou against itself at times. I mean, Boston College, credit to them. They're a very, very tough team. That O-line was, I know maybe it was a bit by design, Mizzou just trying to play more contained than get a true pass rush on Castellanos, make Castellanos beat them through the air. But Boston College's O-line did hold up well in pass pro, not at all in the run game. Mizzou did what it needed to do there. I mean, if we had said coming into this game, Mizzou would hold Boston College to 46 rushing yards on the day, I think we would have probably predicted a Mizzou blowout. And it really should have been if not for penalties, a couple deep balls, just mental mistakes from Marvin Burks in particular. Really screwed Mizzou in that respect. You take a ranked win no matter what, no matter how it looks, no matter who you're playing, no matter what. You always take a ranked victory, especially this early in the season. That's a big one for their resume. But it's honestly a coach's dream because Missouri got a big win. They got the win over the ranked opponent, and there are still so many reasons to believe that there's improvement that can be made, and I'm sure we'll get into that more.
Yeah, it felt like there was no swagger early on. Missing passes, dropping balls. It was just sloppy play early on. And I guess it's sometimes hard to do that when you come out in Boston College. Scores early, has a pretty dominant drive with controlling the ball, controlling the time of possession. And the defense did well containing that, kind of moving forward and how they adjusted to Castellanos. But 8 penalties, 78 yards on those penalties. They just kept shooting themselves in the foot. And you're going to talk about, how far that third down was in the second half, but they just kept stepping on their own tail. And that was just one of those things where it's like you wanted to get these things cleaned up in those first 2 games of the season. You get a power 4 matchup that ends up being a ranked game, and you didn't expect that coming into the season. But you wanted all this cleaned up. And one of the things that even wasn't a penalty that that came to mind is when there was a run play with Brady Cook, kind of a designed run. Caden Green came back on a swing block and just ran right into him. And there's stuff like that. There was a pass to Mookie Cooper who was kind of wide open on third down, and it was kind of a little bit behind him. He just couldn't get the pass. And I wanted to shout out just Mookie real quick as well. I brought this up last show that sometimes he would just kind of show up at different points in the season. He hasn't had a touchdown since 2021. That was brought up again on the broadcast, but he had 3 receptions for 55 yards. The guy can still play, and he's kind of like this safety blanket guy that just pops up out of nowhere and gets good yards.
Yeah, we'll get into the good, I think, after. I feel like we've kind of been doing these last 3 game recaps the same way, where it feels like we should talk about the bad first, even though they did win, and then kind of sing some individual praises that we liked this week. But yeah, let's talk about that because Mizzou, they outgained Boston College by 145 yards. They won the turnover battle. They had a better third down conversion rate. You mentioned time of possession. Mizzou actually ended up besting Boston College in that, had the ball for 35 minutes in this game, outgained them on third down. Like I said, it went 4 for 4 in the red zone, 440 total yards, held BC, like Payton said, to 46 rushing and under 300 total. And yet it's a 1-score game at home, albeit against a ranked team. So get into that, Payton. What was the biggest thing for you? I know you started talking about some playing
penalties. I can't even. The penalties are fucking ridiculous. It is inexcusable garbage every single game. I mean, it is really, really, really getting hard to watch. I mean, Boston College, that first drive of the game, I mean, they did do a good job. They controlled the line of scrimmage for the most part. They did have a lot of good run plays that were working there. But quite frankly, Mizzou should have been off the field there on a third down at midfield. Chris McClellan gets caught with the hands too high. That breathes new life into the drive. That 2nd and 59 that went viral, that really, I don't find it that funny as much as everyone else does. I think it's really ridiculous that a top 6 team in the nation is doing crap like that. I don't find it funny at all. It was Luther Burden losing his composure. People can complain about officiating all they want. I would say maybe one thing was a missed PI call on Theo Weiss. Other than that, every single call that was made in this game was completely fair. Luther Burden ripping a mouthpiece away from a Boston College player and throwing it in the air. He was lucky he wasn't ejected 2 plays later for throwing a ball at a dude's face and picking up his second unsportsmanlike conduct. They called it unnecessary roughness instead. The penalties it did not cost them a game yesterday. It is going to cost them a game down the line. Quite frankly, that was no ifs, ands, or buts the biggest problem for me. I know that Brady Cook did not play well in the first quarter. He missed a deep ball to Luther Burden. He has to tighten that up, the deep ball especially. but he was much better in the intermediate passing game. When Mizzou got punched in the mouth, they responded really well, and Brady Cook in particular played excellent football in the middle eight, and just the second and third quarter in general. The penalties are going to lose this team games if they don't get cleaned up, though. It is completely ridiculous. It's inexcusable. Eli Drinkwitz finally showed a little bit of frustration with it. He got in Luther's face and screamed at him. That cannot be the end of it, though. I mean, things need to be done about it in practice. It's again, I'm happy Mizzou got the win, and it's a very coachable thing to fix. But the fact that it is week 3 and I've had to mention penalties for the third week in a row is really ridiculous. And that comes back to coaching. That is something Drinkwitz has got to fix immediately.
And it's always going to be the second guy that gets caught, no matter what. Like you just can't respond to those things. Luther got his mouthpiece pulled. They're going to see you pull the mouthpiece off the next guy, and that's the thing that it just can't happen. This team talks about, the something to prove. Playing for each other was a big thing. We talked about last week that Theo Weiss mentioned in the post game, and that's just not playing with each other. We're not in the locker room. We're not on these teams. We never played college football, but that's just easy to see. You can't let that happen. This is a team that doesn't have a lot of room for error moving forward. Throughout the season, it's just, even with a 12-team playoff, you just can't have these things. You can't shoot yourself in the foot moving forward with an opportunity to beat a ranked team easily, and then just put yourself in position that you're giving them a chance to beat you. Even though you're not on the defense side of the ball, you're still hurting your own team with those kind of moves. And moving forward, you want Luther to be a leader on this team. He's not a captain. I mean, he's not wearing the C on his chest, but he's a junior. This is his third year in the SEC. These guys look up to him. I mean, there has to be offensive players that look up to him, and he's considered one of the best offensive players in the entire country, not just even at his position. And it's just one of those things where you have to set an example moving forward with it. And I was, when I saw the video of Drinkwitz, yelling in his face on the sideline, I wasn't expecting that necessarily. I just haven't seen that before, especially with, a player of his caliber and just who he is. But that was what you wanted to see. And I thought, Luther mentioned it as well. We can kind of jump into some of those quotes. This is from the press conference. You just said, I just got to cut the nonsense out, keep my composure. I don't want to put my team in that position again. And I think it's, it's a learning experience moving forward, and you want to get this out of the way early, but at the same time, it just shouldn't be happening for a team with this much experience.
Payton, you have another point?
I mean, you look at the penalties in a vacuum. I mean, this was a 1-score game. If Chris McClellan, and look, that was the first defensive penalty of the year, so I don't fault it too much. It was not like he was pushing the dude's head all the way back. He just got his hands a little too high, but it did happen. That led to 6 points, and I mean, that when that 2nd and 59 happened, it came on a drive where Mizzou was in BC territory. I mean, you're talking about at least maybe a 10-point, maybe 14-point swing there. I mean, you tighten that up, you're maybe looking at a 34-14 win right now. I mean, that is just the margin of error that 2 penalties really can. Well, I guess it was a lot more than 2 on the 2nd and 59, but that is the margin of error penalties can create. And that is something that if Mizzou is in a 3-point game later in the season, that will lose them a football game. So that needs to be, they need to be cut by more than half for Mizzou to be successful this season. It is totally ridiculous right now. Way out of control.
When you mentioned that too, obviously the stats say what they say. It was 7 penalties for, 80 plus yards, but it's a lot more than that, right? I mean, when you read some of these penalties, Brady Cook, complete on 2nd and 25, completed a pass for 23 yards. That probably erases the first mistake. Then another penalty, confounds that. So it's the, when they eliminate explosive plays, you're taking like you said, Payton, you're taking a lot more than just the penalty yards into account there. It takes away scores. It takes away big plays. It takes away momentum, all that stuff. And then with Luther Burden, it's, I don't think there's ever been a case where he's been held to, a different standard or has a longer leash just because he's, the star of this team. But yeah, I think it's good that Drinkwitz is yelling at him and saying these things to him. And I think Burden understands that. When he gets to the pros, there's going to be a lot smarter corners that are going to know how to goad you into penalties. You see it all the time in the NFL. If you're kind of a hothead wide receiver, can get you in trouble and get your team into trouble. So, it's something that he's got to learn for himself as a pro. And obviously, it's going to help him in college as well and help this team. And yeah, defensively, it's tough. I mean, same thing. You get an incomplete pass or it was a 6-yard completion on the Toriano Pride PI, and that all of a sudden turns that into technically an explosive play because you add 15 yards onto that. So, yeah, I think I agree. It definitely needs to be cleaned up. I don't know what has to change in terms of, you can't practice. It's not a scheme thing. You can't really practice that. You just have to get more discipline.
You can get that out in practice. It's called make these guys run until they're dog tired every single penalty they commit. There's ways to coach it out. There's reason teams like the New England Patriots or the Alabama Crimson Tide under Nick Saban never had big penalty issues like that. That is a pure coaching thing. You need to have the discipline in place for when crap like that happens.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into the other kind of big thing that I think you guys both touched on. Kenny, I'll ask you about this first. The secondary. You guys watched this full game, but on 2 of these touchdowns for Boston College, I mean, I watched the fumble one was just ridiculous. It was, both the safeties just trying to go for the ball when they're 20 yards away from it. And, Castellanos could just huck it downfield. He had 2 options wide open for a touchdown. And then late on, they get another wide open score where their tight end just can streak right down the sideline, just no one within 10 yards of him. What did you guys notice from the secondary? Because they did get 2 turnovers, but looked like some worrisome plays for me.
It was
Okay, can I go?
Yeah, a lot of like mental mistakes. I think early on, you see this team and you see what Castellanos can do with his legs, and botch snap, probably to the secondary means, a guy that can scramble. Probably going to use that tool. Probably going to get something on the ground. And then there's just holes in the secondary. I mean, that one where like I talked about the botch snap. I mean, just wide open down the field. Another one where the guy just slips past Marvin Burks. Probably thinks that there's someone behind him, and there wasn't. I mean, that's just one of those things. And you look at these grades too on PFF, and it's just not something you want to see by week 3. With a 54.4 for Joseph Charleston. Toriano Pride got a 53.6 overall defensive grade. Sidney Williams, 52.1. And Marvin Burks with a 49.9 in the worst coverage grade of any Mizzou player on Saturday with a 41.8. And that's just, those are some of the worries, early on. But I think that just comes with like a new style of playing a different offense. And I mean, Bill O'Brien is a good offensive mind, but at the same time, it's just like those little mental lapses that you just can't, it was just, a small mental lapse ended up being a big gain for Boston College.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. Kenny kind of hit the nail on the head there with just the mental mistakes thing. I mean, it really was. And Drinkwitz literally said verbatim in the immediate post-game interview on ESPN, he said, those 3 touchdowns were all complete busted coverages. We just kind of have to throw the tape out on those. Like, I don't want to say they were fluky, but like you're not going to have another situation where a quarterback's going to fumble a snap and then toss a 68-yard touchdown. The 4th and 3 one was just, Toriano got kind of dusted and just really didn't recover well. If he recovers a little better, that was a duck. There's a good chance he breaks that. And Marvin Burks, I don't right. So much for me singing his praises a week ago. 1 week later, he totally just had his eyes stuck on the backfield for whatever reason on that 3rd touchdown. And he just let the tight end go right by him. It's a bit unfortunate, really, more than anything else. I'm not too concerned about the secondary lapses because they're a good way to tell what's fluky and what's not. I know there's so many metrics you can look at. And those types of plays are going to be something that don't hurt you too bad in the long run. It'll show up just really on video, but not in your overall metrics. I think Mizzou will be fine there. It truly, for 90% of these plays, Mizzou did their job against Boston College. The problem is just the 3 times they really made bad mistakes, Boston College punished them. And that's a mark of a well-coached, pretty good team. And I think Bill O'Brien is a great coach. I think that he has a good scheme. But I think Missouri comes out of that game definitely still feeling really, really, really good about their defense. They did their job. They kept Castellanos from breaking the game with his legs. They made him try to beat him through the air, and he did. He took advantage of Missouri's mistakes, but for the most part, Missouri did their job, and I think they're going to look back on that, and that's what they're going to focus on more than the 3 busted plays.
Let's give some flowers too. Trevez Johnson got an interception in this game. I mean, pretty like it's shot into double coverage, and he was just right there for
playing
it.
center field.
Yeah, but 20 snaps, and he had a 79.4 defensive grade, 77.9 in coverage, and 13 of those snaps were in coverage. So overall, a good day for him for the Florida transfer from 2 years ago. Jordan Norwood, another guy, got an interception in this game with the 6th best defensive grade at 67.7 and then 64.9 in coverage. And Dalen Cardinell also, I don't think a lot of people might have saw this, but he had an interception. It was in his hands. He was my guy that I wanted to see probably have a bigger game against this offense. But he ended up having he was tied for the 9th best defensive grade at 64.5. So there still was some, good secondary showings. It's just those small mental lapses ended up being explosive plays.
I mean, I guess that's refreshing. Also, if we're talking best players, I said Chris McClellan, so that's a old take exposed because that wasn't great.
Hey, he was tied. He was tied with Dalen Cardinell.
His grades weren't too bad, but he did have the bad penalty. But yeah, okay. So I think that's a promising sign. I know Payton at one point was kind of liking what he was seeing from Corey Batun's unit. I mean, Payton, what else did you enjoy from the defense? Kenny kind of touched on the secondary. I know they got a sack. I think it was who got the sack? I'm blank. I am blanking. I wrote it down.
Zion Young had a,
and Corey Flagg was in the backfield as well.
Khalil Jacobs had a sack. Yeah, Khalil Jacobs had the big one. Yeah, I liked really after that first drive, and the commentators caught this pretty quickly too. Corey Batoon kind of switched up and went, okay, we're just going to totally make sure they can't run the ball today. He brought a lot of 3D tackle sets. There was a lot of McClellan, Gracial, and Williams. Occasionally Webb would get mixed in there. And it worked. I mean, that was the big thing I thought was going to be, can Missouri kind of contain that run game that Boston College has? Can they control the line of scrimmage? They absolutely, after the first drive, really, I thought did a great job. Again, there was no real pass rush for a lot of the day. It got going more in the second half. I mean, Zion Young had back-to-back really good plays, I remember, including deflecting a ball on a 3-man rush. That's really good to see. But for the most part, I mean, they did a good job of keeping Castellanos contained. The D tackles did more than enough up front. Boston College tried desperately all day to get something going in the run game just between the tackles, tried to go up the middle. They did not. Missouri absolutely did not bend at all there. I mean, Chris McClellan was great. Christian Williams made a few good plays. Gracial was plugging holes up front. So really good there. Corey Batoon had a plan. He stuck to it, and it paid off. I mean, Castellanos, again, he took advantage of the few mistakes Missouri made. But other than that, he really just looked kind of like a guy out there. He did not showcase his athletic ability too much. Missouri kept him in the pocket. He threw a couple really, really bad picks. He's a pretty inaccurate quarterback. Missouri said, you have to beat us through the air. Wasn't able to do it. I thought the secondary played well. I thought Corey Batoon put them in great positions to succeed. The linebackers, again, the constant rotating of them. Khalil Jacobs really looks like a player. I mean, not even just that sack, but he had Khalil Jacobs doing a QB spy on Castellanos for a lot of the game. And I remember one of the few times Castellanos was able to break contain and scramble a bit, Jacobs was right there to bring him down after only a 2-yard gain on a key third down. So pretty good stuff all told. Chuck Hicks, you can see there also one of the top graded defender on the day. Khalil Jacobs was third. Corey Flagg was fourth. I liked what I saw from the defense. Just Marvin Burks can't get caught with his eyes in the backfield too much. He's a young player. It's going to happen sometimes. Rather him get it out in a win than a loss. I'm very confident in the defense going forward.
Yeah, I liked what I saw too. I think it goes into something. I want to say we brought this up on this show, but I'm not sure. The whole thing where Drinkwitz said, they don't have the first and second team defense. They look at it as waves where, you kind of have you kind of get mixed things in there. They have maybe their first wave of guys they know are the most talented, but then they're able to kind of mix and match stuff. Like it kind of feels like we're not going to see, and obviously if someone takes over, they take over, but I feel like we're not going to see a game where Dalen Carnell or Chris McClellan has like 10 tackles, but you're going to see like what you saw where you're looking at 2 guys with 5 tackles, 4 guys with 4 tackles, 4 guys with 3 tackles, and just like a long list of guys getting involved. I think that just it seems like that's what Mizzou's defensive identity is, and if it works, it works. So, I think that's a good sign. Obviously, Jacobs has experience with working with Payton before, so that's good. That's working. Other side of the ball on offense, got PFF pulled up to Luther Burden. We obviously has to keep his head a little bit better. He finally had a Luther Burden type game though. We had a touchdown Luther finally. He finished the day with 6 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown. Had some just nasty runs after the catch that we're so used to him seeing, or that we're so used to seeing from him rather. What did you guys think of just his performance, obviously, and then just the offense in general? Kind of your thoughts on they were moving. I know Payton earlier mentioned Brady Cook looked a little bit clunky again out of the gate.
Out of the gate, yes, but once Missouri got like their first taste of adversity, went down 14-3, I thought Brady Cook actually played really well from the second and third quarter. He didn't hit the deep balls that you want to see, those high arcers to Luther Burden. He had Luther Burden for a touchdown in the third quarter and just missed it, which is a little frustrating. He has to hit those come SEC time because it can be the difference between a win and a loss, but I thought he played pretty well. I mean, the intermediate passing game, he really got going. That the throw that kind of unclogged the offense a bit to Luther Burden, that Burden caught and run for 44 yards. Brady Cook is a very lucky man because he threw that ball. It was almost perfectly layered, but the Boston College DB was able to get a hand on it. If that's picked, we're probably having some very different discussions today, but it didn't. Brady Cook, for the most part, hit a lot of his intermediate throws. I can only really think of the third down throw to Cooper he missed high, the deep ball to Luther he missed, but there really wasn't a lot of misses. I mean, he left meat on the bone, but he still completed 70% of his passes, had about 9 yards an attempt. Didn't really come close to turning the ball over other than the 44-yard completion he had. So I thought Brady Cook actually took a step forward. Next step for him is going to be getting that deep ball to hit. I think he just needs to, it's just a case of he needs to see one go in at this point, and it'll all work like clockwork. I don't like just kind of the discourse around Brady Cook on social media right now. I feel like people are being a little too willfully ignorant of how he played in the second and third quarters because he missed a deep ball to Luther Burden.
People being hard on Brady Cook on social media.
If you can believe it. I think people are being a little too rough on him. I thought he played pretty well yesterday.
Yeah, it is. I mean, going back to Luther as well, it is pretty crazy to see like there's just so much, a lot of people were just upset with just the overall, penalties and everything like that. And needed 117 yards. And I saw some people subtracting the penalty yards from his overall receiving. They're saying this is just true performance out there. At the same time, you mentioned like the yards after catch, 74 yards came after catch. And just overall, there's these moments in the games where you're like, okay, is Luther Burden going to get the ball? I mean, is he in double coverage? They just, locking him down, and he just gets this explosive play. I think that just continues to be one of these just trends for this Mizzou offense that just out of nowhere, he'll get the ball and he'll just make some guy miss. I mean, there was one play I saw recently where they kind of drew it up where he could have just taken the easy way, just straight to the pylon untouched. No, he's going to lower the shoulder and hit the corner of the linebacker that's on the outside and just take the touchdown right away. And it's just one of those things where he's very physical wide receiver, and he'll just explode when he needs to. And even the broadcast mentioned it. It was like, are we going to see Luther Burden kind of pick something up? Because a lot of the early targets were going to Theo Weiss. Some of those weren't really hooking up early on, and out of nowhere he gets Luther Burden for a big play. Shout out the run game as well. Noel and Carroll 22 attempts for Noel and 12 for Carroll. It's 121 yards on 57 yards respectively. Good to see that from the running game. I know Noel sometimes will maybe do a little bit too much finesse, a little dancing in the backfield, but overall, just I think it was a good rushing attack from both of them. And my last offensive shout out has to go to Armand Membu with an 83.7 pass blocking grade. That's pretty great to see from your right tackle.
I have a couple questions about that because Payton, I saw you tweet something about Connor Tollison, and then I want your take on the run game as well. Because for one, I know you had said something about Nate Noel, kind of trying to do a little bit too much at times, like Kenny just mentioned. So I know you both saw that. What did you guys think of the carries being split up? Because this seemed a little bit more Nate Noel, Bell Cowie to me. I know Marcus Carroll still had a decent game, but what did you guys think of how they split that up?
I didn't get the sense that it was like the Nate Noel show. He was just kind of the hot hand, so they fed him for a bit, but they still very much mixed in Marcus Carroll. I mean, it would maybe go a couple times, maybe 3 Noel carries to 1 Carroll carry, but I thought the split was pretty good still. This may upset some people, but I think it kind of should be the truth, and it shouldn't really upset people. I think Missouri maybe should be a run-first team. Despite the wide receivers, despite the fact that we have seen Brady Cook be able to help win games on his own, this O-line is downright scary when they're coming at you in run blocking. I mean, it's not just one guy. It's not just Armand Membu or Cameron Johnson or the guys we constantly sing the praises of. That whole O-line can run block. And I mean, this was going to be like the first real test for them, like going up against a power 4 D line who kind of takes pride in winning at the line of scrimmage on both sides. There were holes for days for Noel and Carroll. I mean, Noel, yes, he dances a little too much, but you take that a bit because sometimes it's going to lead to him breaking some longer runs, as opposed to Carroll, who's going to be more of the lower the shoulder, pick up a few yards guy. Nate Noel, I mean, 22 carries, 121 yards. Carroll, 12 for 57. That is excellent. You will take that every day of the week out of your 2 running backs. It was interesting, too, because Jamal Roberts did not get a carry, but he got a lot of the third down snaps. He would be in there for pass blocking. Actually, the last touchdown of the game for Mizzou came with Jamal Roberts being the lead blocker. So just an interesting thing that I saw there. They seem to have a role for Jamal Roberts. But overall, very, very pleased with the run game. I think Missouri, I'm not saying they need to run the ball 70% of the time, but I think maybe you should look at Missouri as more of a, we're going to set the tone on the ground and then air it out deep to our elite weapons out wide when you're kind of worn out at a certain point.
I feel like almost to an extent they kind of do that. Like I feel like I noticed that last year with Schrader, and I feel like we hear it with Luther Burden all the time, where you'll be watching these games and you'll say like Kenny said, you'll be like, "Where's Luther?" And then all of a sudden they break him out for a big play, or he gets a great run after the catch. But I feel like that is because they had. I mean, last year with Schrader, he was as good as he was. You knew you could do that. But yeah, I almost do feel like when you look at that, or when you look at the stats last week, you could do that with this.
And you saw it, like, I mean, Missouri, when they went down 14-3, they were still having great success with the run game. They take a 17-14 lead into half. Kirby Moore called, I think, honest to God, Kirby Moore is excellent. He's had a lot of great drives here. I thought the drive out of half against Boston College was the best drive he has called yet, because literally every single play fit the situation and worked. It was like run, third down pass for a completion, run, third down pass for completion, explosive play to Luther Burden, creative little run on third down that gets Brady Cook in the end zone with Jamal Roberts throwing a lead block. I thought that Kirby Moore called an excellent game yesterday. And I mean, the play designs, he is one of the most creative play designers I have just ever seen. I mean, it is really so much eye candy on these reverses, the fake pitches that just get the defense second guessing. Just appreciate every day with Kirby Moore, because again, I don't really know if how he'd be as a head coach. He seems like kind of a reserved guy. somebody sooner or later is going to take the chance on him.
No doubt. Credit to Brady Cook too for staying on his feet on the
Mhm.
touchdown. We had it on repeat on the YouTube.
Jamal
Kenny,
Roberts
any
also
other
on the block there on that
right?
play.
Yeah. Kenny, any
Yeah, that's
final
what I
thoughts
was
on
talking about.
Yeah,
the
that
offense?
when Payton mentioned that eye candy play, there was one where it was almost like a shuttle pass to Brett Norfleet that only picked up a couple yards, but it was a good end around. And I was like, if he just gets just one a yard of separation just away from those defensive linemen, I think he gets probably 10 yards there. It
That
was a
was
beautifully designed play, just did not get the first down.
That was an excellent play by the Boston College defender because that was literally perfectly executed. Keep that in the tool bag, break it back out at some point because I agree, Kenny, that was like a perfect design and I think it would have gotten more than 10. That looks like it was perfectly blocked out front. It was just a great shoestring tackle.
I still think there's some stuff in the chamber they're saving for an A&M and an Alabama eventually. They're gonna surprise some people with some plays. All right, a couple things Drinkwitz said, and Kenny, I get turned for you for this. Obviously, he first said he's proud of the team's response when they were pushed, but there's a lot to correct. Said the blame of penalties lies on him. And now, Kenny, we have not talked about the best player in this game. Blake Craig, the thinner kicker, I know we tweeted that. I'm sure we did not make that up, but 4 for 4 today. Call him Wendy's. Hit from 38, 38, 31, and 56. Very Mevis-esque from the guy at halftime. Blake Craig won the day today. That's who we all should have picked as our player before this game. What a nice performance for the young kicker who's at it. We've been a little skeptical. He had a good game.
I was never skeptical. But yeah,
Never a doubt.
Never a doubt. I think we'll take credit for thinner kicker. I actually broke it out on that podcast radio show I went on earlier this week, and we'll take credit for it. Someone replied to us saying Craig the Leg is better. That's cool. He'll have 2 nicknames. That guy deleted his comment. We got more likes. Boom. Thinner kicker,
Bully.
Craig the Leg, the KC King, whatever you want to call him. Eric Link got another one. I just got to give Eric Link his props. One of the best special teams coordinators in the SEC, continues to find some of the best specialists, and Blake Craig is just another example of that. And props to him, missing 2 field goals last weekend, coming back, hitting from 56, and then just consistently hitting from 38 and the 31. It's good to see. It's a good step forward.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical after last week. 2 pretty wide misses, but my God, that 56-yarder probably had another 10, 15 yards on it. It looked like it was ridiculously. I mean, that was not even like a comp. Like that wasn't even in doubt for a second, other than maybe it was going to go wide left. My confidence in Blake Craig is 100% solidified now. That is a kicker and a half. And I'm not going to give Eric Link credit for that because the recruiting process for Blake Craig. It was probably Eric Link calling the kicking agency or whatever, the camp, the academy
Cole's camp,
and going, hey, do you have a kicker that is interesting at all? And they were like, yeah, this guy. And he was like, okay. And then they did all the work. All right. Blake Craig is a product of the Coles Kicking Academy. He is not a product of a guy that had 2 punt returners sitting in one spot on a punt yesterday.
Yeah. I love Blake Craig. I love Craig the Leg. He also is very much a young kicker, and you can tell because I feel like more veteran kickers, when they have short field goals, they kind of just make sure they go through. Blake Craig blasts the ball no matter how close the kick is. Those 31-yarders were sailing over the net. He was like, I'm making a statement here today, which you got to be careful because you can lose some of your power over the course of the game if you have to kick this many field goals. I don't know. But yeah, got to give Blake Craig all of his props. He was excellent today. Excellent.
I will throw out there that returners aren't always the special teams coach's duty. When I was on the beat, let me get the spots. But Curtis Looper was on for kick returns, and then I believe Al Pogue had punt returners. Was what they were overseeing at that time. I don't know if it's still like that, but there's a lot of more coaches that handle special teams other than just the special teams coach.
But was Eric Link still also tight ends coach at that time?
Yeah.
Okay, he has less responsibilities now. I think it's probably him.
Like Craig, he got him. So we're going to give Eric Link his flowers. Peyton will send him one from 1-800-Flowers.com.
I love all of
No free
Mizzou's
ads.
assistant
No free ads.
coaches. They're all really good. Eric Link just happens to be pretty obviously the worst of the bunch.
Shout out Trey Flint.
Luke Bauer also has been excellent this season. I feel like we should mention that. I feel like every time they've needed him to kind of down a team in the 20 or just give them a big boot to flip the field, he's been excellent this year.
I need another fake so bad.
Let's hope not.
Well, I hope
Let's
it
hope
doesn't
not
need
in
to
that
come
situation.
in a situation like the first one did, but I just hope they try it one other time, just for fun. Like opening drive, and then maybe they don't ever do it again.
I think we should
we'll
maybe
see.
just take Luke Bauer's one success and
Bauer's-
run.
Rely on his foot. He doesn't need to throw.
Yeah.
Let's touch on the thing I led the show with, which so Payton talked about it last week with the college game day thing being in Columbia, South Carolina, and Mizzou having the only ranked matchup on Saturday. I'm curious your thoughts on Luther Burns' comment about it. Also, I will say the LSU South Carolina game I think ended up being pretty good, didn't it? I think LSU came back after South Carolina was up big, so
It
guess that
was
game-
a good game, yes.
it ended up living up kind of. But I'm curious your thoughts on something Luther Burden said. He said, to me, it's disrespect to not have us on the big stage with the big TV cameras. I took it personal, and I'm pretty sure everyone else in that locker room took it personal. We ain't going nowhere. We're here to stay. I'm going to segue that because they're playing Vanderbilt next week at 3:15 on SEC Network. So not really a big stage game. It's obviously Vanderbilt, so you probably weren't expecting that for that game. But what do you guys think of this, Mizzou kind of using this as some bulletin board material?
It almost sounds like they still think they have something to prove. Wink, wink. No, I'm kidding. But no, I mean, I'm not shocked by that, by the fact that they feel that way. I kind of also I'm never really one that's like, oh, why doesn't my team always get the big spotlight? But my God, the amount of hot takes off this team that is number 6 in the nation. You read any bowl projection, you read any ESPN article, very few of them have Missouri even making the playoffs at this point. It does start to get to you a bit. You're like, what else does Missouri really need to show right now to really kind of earn that respect? Quite frankly, I kind of hope it continues because the team kind of has that chip on that shoulder, and it's paying off for them so far. I do almost feel like it's a little bit I think they kind of do know how good they are at the end of the day, and they kind of roll into the game with that attitude a bit, and that can contribute to some of the penalties. But whatever they need to do to motivate themselves, keep the wins rolling in, fine by me, man. I kind of agree with what Luther is saying here, but they got to keep going out and proving it.
Yeah, I kind of hope this team never gets the respect it deserves, just because it just has fueled them so much the last 2 seasons, and I think that's just everything they need. But I think at the same time, one thing that the broadcasts mentioned that really stood out to me is that from their perspective, Mizzou is just riding off of last season still, and they're riding off of a Cotton Bowl win, and then they just haven't played an SEC opponent yet. They have Vanderbilt this next week. But they just haven't played someone of that caliber that they were playing at the end of that season, and I think that's where some of the attention is with Mizzou and just some of the thoughts from the national media. And like I said, at the same time, continue to do it. It's kind of working. It's helping this team. It's just been the mantra if it's not broken, don't fix it, and just kind of keep moving forward with feeling like you're disrespected, and hopefully good things will happen.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you. I kind of like it. I think it's a good thing for this team to motivate itself. And yeah, Kenny, you make a good point. Like, we've now seen Florida State, who I think everyone else was also kind of, they ranked 10th in the same position, riding off of last year, not really considering how much they lost, all this stuff. And look what's happened to that program. But you have Missouri proving it. And I think the thing that gets muddled in college football, if you just win, everyone has to respect you eventually. So, just get the results on the field.
Unless you're Florida State.
Unless you're Florida State. Well, they don't win, but
they won every game last year.
You mean last year? Sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Until everyone.
Well, little thing happened there
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the quarterback's ankle.
If you just win
unfortunately.
and your best player stays healthy, then no one can doubt you. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. They'll keep to something to prove attitude. Like I said, 3:15 SEC Network is when they play Vandy. We'll preview that game on Friday. So yeah, any final thoughts from BC? I'm so glad they didn't lose this. And Kenny has a quick hit about Boston College that I'm really excited to discuss on the other side.
Again, Missouri has not played an A game or anything close to it. They're 3-0. They got a ranked win. They should not be punished for getting a ranked win. It's a little frustrating because, again, they should have won by a lot more. I'm looking forward to seeing the SP Plus rankings on ESPN. I'm looking forward to seeing the stats award. Did we really get beat that bad, O-meter? Because I think it'll indicate that Missouri was way better in this game. But yeah, man, like Kenny said, I hope they just kind of keep that chip on their shoulder, keep it rolling. They got one more tune-up game before it gets real serious.
Yes, sir. All right. We'll preview Vandy on Friday. But for now, we will finish the show. Oh, wait, do we want to touch on these scores? I guess we should.
Yeah.
It looks like you won again, Jack.
So these were our predictions: 38-20 for Jack, 31-13 was mine, and then Payton, you had 35-14. Final score 27-21. We had the same 18
Difference
points there, same difference, Jack. So I gave it to the both of us as a win. Is that okay?
Should we allow ties on this, or should we tie break it?
I
Payton,
think
you can decide.
I
was really
don't
close.
really-
There was Mizzou ended up kicking a field goal on one of its final drives, and they had scored a touchdown. I would have been.
Yeah, you would
I
have.
would
yeah,
have
you
31
would've won.
points.
What if we do next week to avoid ties? We could pick like the leading rusher or something for the game, whether it's
Okay.
Mizzou or the
Yeah,
other
that's
team.
fine.
If we're right,
I
on that,
gotta-
we can let that be the tiebreaker.
I got to stop being so optimistic, I guess. Everyone that knows me knows I'm the most positive, uplifting, optimistic fan out there, and it's hurting me now. I should
Glances at
stop
SEC
looking.
men's basketball prediction record.
Yeah, I was the closest last year. But no, I mean, it is what it is. I'll be back at them next week. I have a good feeling about Missouri next week, so.
My whole thing
Right.
was I wanted field goals in this game, and it being really, the best thing for Blake Craig. But I also predicted 2 field goals for Boston College. I didn't know this until the game started. Boston College hadn't attempted a field goal before the Mizzou game.
Yeah, they hadn't.
Yeah.
Their kicker was as their kicker is not very experienced. All right, we'll preview Vandy on Friday. For now, we will finish out the show with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time to finish out the show. Kenny has not pulled up anything. If you're not watching on the YouTube, Kenny has not pulled up anything for us to see
But
on
he's
his
got
shared
like
screen.
a almost smile.
he's
He's
got a
trying
little-
to hold back a
A
smile.
grin on his face. Does that mean he has something different than the Barstool quiz? Kenny, your Ken Sports
Yes.
Shorts.
Yes. Thank you for having me again this week. This is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a very
You
hard
host the
one.
show, man.
I am sorry, Jack, but this might be you leaning a lot on Payton for this one. And I'm going to
usually
be
is.
honest, this might stump Payton as well. So we are the 3 of us. We graduated high school in 2019. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know too much about football recruiting. I just wasn't a big Mizzou fan at all. I mean, it's from Houston, Texas. Wasn't interested in other than just watching Drew Lock at that time. But I'm going to give you guys are going to have to guess the top 5 recruits from the class of 2019. So these guys graduated high school at the same time as us. And this is all through 247.
Man.
It's easier to do it that way. I know, Jack, you are our rivals guy, but I'm going to go back to 247
okay.
for now. You guys, I'll give you positions and we can go from 5 to 1. I'll throw out some hints here and there when you need them, but we'll start at number 5 with a 3-star safety.
Is this 247 or Rivals?
This is 247.
Okay.
Wait, this is Missouri's top 5?
This is Mizzou's top 5 from the class of 2019, based on rating.
So this
success
isn't the JJ Hester year, is it?
This is not.
Oh.
DeMarcus
This is
Hasty
not
was
good.
already there.
Is it Jelani Williams?
So Jelani Williams was 3rd, and he was the top recruit that Mizzou got in the state of
Oh,
Missouri.
wow.
And he was the 6th. So yeah,
Oh, so-
Jelani was 3rd. He was a 4-star safety.
Okay,
Okay,
there we
so
go.
you got one of them.
Fun fact: I saw Jelani Williams at the Cotton Bowl in the restroom.
Oh.
That's so weird. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even. They're 2019
I'm gonna need more. I'm
class.
gonna need positions and stuff.
Okay, yeah. So the fifth guy on this list, like I mentioned, we're still looking for that guy. He's a 3-star safety. He's from
Where from?
Louisiana, and he transferred after his either freshman or sophomore season.
To where?
Okay. Do I know who this is?
Yes,
Did I like this player when he was here?
you despised him.
Ah,
I despised him.
This
He's
is
a
one of
safety?
your. Yeah, I believe he switched to corner, but you were. This was one of your least favorite secondary players in Mizzou history.
oh.
Has he so he transferred?
Yes, and he's transferred since from the school that he transferred.
So he's
to.
transferred twice.
Yes.
Where's he at
Can I
now?
ask where he transferred
I
to?
will
the
not
first time?
tell you. I will tell
Okay,
you.
so that would give it
second
away.
team. Yes, I will give you the second team. His second
I'll
team
take the
transferred
second
to
team.
New Mexico.
New Mexico?
New Mexico.
Okay.
I didn't even
I-
know that until now.
I think I know who this
Um,
is.
okay.
Just guess then.
Did he have on Twitter, did he have the NFL draft stage in his header? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
It's Ish Burdine, who, yes,
Ish Burdine,
was
oh
one
my
of the worst
God.
cornerbacks I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So that's a hot start. All right, we got Jelani Williams and Ish Burdine.
It's no
Next one.
longer the NFL draft.
Yeah, I would
Oh,
hope.
Gave up on that dream.
It's like a dragon. So, unfortunate for him.
Let's-
Next one. This is a 3-star tight end from St. Louis. Really think about it, you'll get it pretty quickly.
Did this
Oh,
guy transfer to
man.
Mercer?
He never transferred.
Oh, he's still there.
He is
Or
no
he
Oh,
longer-
he
was there the whole time.
graduated probably.
From where?
He is from St. Louis. Went
Did
to
he
CBC.
medically retire?
Man.
Yes.
Nico
you're too good
Hay.
at this. Yep, it is Nico Hay.
Hey.
And then you guys got it. Jelani Williams is third on the list. 4-star safety at a Parkway North. Second player is a 4-star outside linebacker.
Oh. Was he good here?
To be completely honest, I don't know who these guys are that are in second.
Oh,
first.
lovely.
Oh,
So this guy's
great.
transferred then. Where did he transfer?
He's transferred twice in his college career. He went to FAU and then USF.
No idea.
Wait.
I'm gonna give up on that one
Wait.
immediately.
Oh, I just covered a game for USF, so I wonder if he started. I'm trying to remember
no
who their
way.
linebackers were. I don't know. Who is it?
Yeah, I'm gonna need
Initials?
I'm giving
Initials?
up on that one.
JP. He is still playing college football. He's on USF this
JP?
year.
JP.
James Preston.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Jamie Petway. Excuse me.
Ah,
Oh, okay. I've heard that name. Yeah,
I do recognize him on the
probably
USF.
played in the
remember.
2020 season a bunch.
That's gross. Okay.
And then the top player ranked according to Mizzou for the class of 2019 on 247 is a 4-star offensive tackle from St. Louis. He went to Lutheran North. And I know there's probably, I will say there might be some people watching that are getting this pretty quickly and confused why we don't know. We were also seniors in high school, so we weren't really in tune with this.
We were not locked in yet.
Did this guy stay at Missouri the whole time? Has he started for Missouri? No, he left.
Yeah.
Where'd
He's
he go?
transferred 3 times in his college career.
Oh boy, so it's going well. Where'd he go?
New Mexico, Arizona, and Lindenwood.
I don't know. Who is it?
Initials?
JB.
Ooh. Oh. Is his last name like Bo? It's like Beaufort. Like, oh no, that's Justin Bodford. I'm thinking of. I don't know.
You're right. It's Buford.
Buford. I got that right.
Yeah.
Buford. James Buford.
I was thinking of
Justin
Bodford,
Buford?
the tackle that Mizzou has as a freshman now. But okay, so his first name is also a J.
Yep.
J. Buford.
don't know.
James.
Jack Buford.
Jack
Oh.
Buford. Yeah, okay. I don't
Wow.
know who
Ranked
that is.
third in the state of Missouri, which is kind of confusing because when I looked at the official Missouri 2019 football commits. Okay, this might be wrong on what I'm looking at. It says Missouri 2019 football commits. Was Jelani Williams class 2019? He was, right?
He must have been.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't know why it's like that, but for some reason it looks messed up here. But because it told me Jelani Williams was the top ranked Mizzou in the state of Missouri, but now it says Jack Buford was the top ranked player in the state of Missouri that committed to Mizzou, not just overall. Because that 2019 class there was
Maybe Williams was
top players.
2020? I don't know. I don't remember.
Hmm.
He wasn't a very good player.
Be grateful for where recruiting has come nowadays from Mizzou is the lesson in this.
Connor Bazelak was also in that class, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah, here some other players are in this class.
This
Luke
was
Griffin,
D-Rob's year too.
Martez Manuel, Darius Robinson, Connor Bazelak, Stacy Brown,
Stacy Brown.
Isaiah
CJ
McGuire,
Boone. CJ Boone was a
Evan
guy in
Nicholson.
here.
Oh, I loved Isaiah McGuire.
Mm-hmm.
Devin Nicholson, Sean Robinson, Kelly Bryant.
Sean Robinson.
Okay, well those were transfers, but
Quarterback.
Yeah. The one
Nice.
thing that just kept throwing me off is that it says Eli Drinkwitz was the head coach.
he had to get the transfers to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose. That's
Nice.
the first quarterback
Well,
of the Drinkwitz era
yeah.
was Sean Robinson, and his the first quarterback of the Drinkwitz era was a starting safety by the end of the year.
Yep. Tough.
Crazy.
Long way we've come. All right. Tigers in the Wild. Kenny?
Yeah. Let me give you my screen back and you guys can see everything I've been doing. But my Tiger in the Wild goes to Sophie Cunningham, who signed a contract extension in the WNBA with the Phoenix Mercury through the 2025 season. Congrats to Sophie continuing her WNBA career with Phoenix.
Man, she has been there forever now. Like, how long has it been? 8 years?
Yeah.
6, 7?
loyal.
Yeah.
Put her in the Hall of Fame soon.
I don't know about all that, but Kenny, you're
Oh,
big.
6-year WNBA vet.
Yeah,
Kenny,
that's
you're a big
wild.
Sophie Cunningham fan.
Yes, love Sophie. I also learned this the other day because I just popped up on my TikTok, but she was on the football team at Rockbridge. There's a photo.
Yeah. The I saw that too because they had them sign the photos of them when they were younger. I was gonna mention that.
Yeah.
And she was on the football
is
team. She was
weird.
not
I did
not
not know
happy
that.
to see that photo. She ripped it up immediately. But that was kind of
So much aura.
Very, very nice. Good for Sophie.
Congrats to Sophie Cunningham.
Sharpshooter. The mayor, they call her in Columbia.
We missed her by 1 year. Very sad.
Now that's Barbara Buffalo.
Payton, what's your Tiger in the Wild?
My Tiger in the Wild is going to be the Tiger himself, Truman. Truman the Tiger. It was
Click
his
that reply
birthday
photo. Click the reply
a
photo.
couple days ago.
Yeah.
Truman the Tiger turned 38 years old on September 13th. It's been I'm a big Truman Tiger fan. Are you guys a fan of Truman? I think he's a good mascot. Really good. Reigning national mascot of the year, mind you. I love when he spins his tail like a helicopter.
He
I
looks
played
clean.
rock, paper, scissors against him
Mm-hmm.
one time. That was fun.
Looks
I
very
do like
yellow these
Truman.
days. Very good.
Yes, got good
Very
color.
gold.
Also 38 and still in college. Ugh.
Yeah, there's
figured.
multiple
seasonal.
Truman suits. One is more yellow than the other. Other's more like orange.
Well, I think the one in the bong photo might be the lighting of the picture.
No. There's actually multiple.
Oh, sorry.
I've seen them. I've seen 2 Trumans.
There's some great photos on Truman on the Friday.
There's
Beer
2 of them,
Twitter.
Knowlton. 2 of them, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of it.
Oh yeah. Wow,
Look
that's
at
a
how
whole picture.
dapper he looks.
I love the other photos.
Do you guys have a favorite Truman memory?
You think you can actually drink through the costume?
No. No.
Favorite
All
Truman
right, why don't we
memory?
move on?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite Truman memory.
All right, how about we move on?
All right, my Tiger in the Wild. It's going to be Barry Odom, of course, the former coach of Mizzou back in 2019. Speaking of bringing up that year, he went 3-0 and beat Kansas the other night in Children's Mercy Park, where Kansas are playing its home games. UNLV, they're a playoff team right now. 3-0, got a couple nice wins. They also have a few other Power 5, I think matchups. I guess maybe they're technically not in the playoff because Northern Illinois is higher, but they might be a playoff team.
They could
Mountain
be.
West too. So
How about
shout-outs.
that? Barry Odom making the playoff before Mizzou.
Yeah, I know people were saying the hypothetical 5-12 matchup where Mizzou hosts Barry Odom and UNLV, which would be very funny. My nickname for him is Sports Talk Barry because he used to go on the quad and just talk about the football team in a mic to anyone who would listen. It was great. Hype up the game on Friday. Yeah,
That's
Sports
awesome.
Talk Barry.
He loves Mizzou.
That's my guy. So yeah, congrats to the Rebels, and they beat Kansas. So like Barry's still doing a solid for Mizzou, even though he's been gone for a few seasons.
I feel like as time has gone on and like Missouri has kind of recovered, like I think people look back on the Barry era a bit more fondly now. Like there were problems, like they did not recruit well at all, like pretty poorly by the end. But I mean, Barry Odom inherited an absolute mess, like the worst state the program had ever been in. Gary Pinkel had to retire, the protests, everything had just kind of worked against Mizzou there. And he really kind of revitalized. A lot of that has to do with Drew Lock, of course, but who helped bring in Drew Lock? So Barry Odom, I think everyone kind of looks back fondly on. Very, very good dude. It seems like. It's also like I know we have this 3-0 tweet up. If you look at his other tweet from Victory, it's the most Barry Odom tweet ever. You can see it right there if you're on the YouTube. He just tweeted,
love it.
Good work, fellas, at UNLV football, #grit. That was after they stormed into Kansas, like into Children's Mercy Park and beat Kansas.
Good
and
work,
yeah, man,
fellas.
that Kansas program, they've got issues right now. They got the head coach's wife complaining about attendance. Jalen Daniels has been a mess this season. They're 1-2. Can't say I'm too disappointed.
No, I love it. Also, if you watch this game, great uniform matchup. It was the Kansas Blacks against the UNLV Silver. It looked very good.
I didn't like Kansas's helmets though.
I don't like the helmets. The all black. I'm
black unis look pretty good, but the helmets I thought
the helmet looks bad. The Jayhawk logo looks dumb. I think that's just an objective thing.
Fake bird, dumb looking bird.
Agree. All right, headlines. Kenny, I'm excited for this.
Oh boy, dude.
Yeah, we have fun on this podcast. You take us seriously when you want to. You can joke with us when you want to. But we're not rivals. We're not an actual publication, and this is just very sad to see from Kevin Stone at Eagle Action on Rivals.com, which is the Boston College publication for Yahoo Sports. This is a tough one. Thoughts and observations on loss to Missouri. First off, I hope you're doing better, Kevin Stone, but let's get into it. Well, the college football dream isn't dead, but it certainly took a hit on Saturday. What started out like another special day turned south quickly as the number 6 Tigers took down number 24 BC, parentheses, score in all caps. I've had vertigo all week and still do, parentheses, never had it before. Man, this absolutely sucks. I wouldn't even wish it on Eli. That's Eli Drinkwitz, not Eli Hoff. We love you, Eli. Or this loser Tiger fan base. End parentheses. So I'm going to make this short and sweet. ... And then he gets into it.
Oh boy.
First off, this is like I said, this is Rivals.com. I just don't understand how this can still be up. The original tweet is still up from Kevin Stone. This could also just be factored into the ratio of the week. We can call this a little bit early if you guys like to. If I can just find it. He tweets a lot because he just kind of left it up and just ignored it.
He's a Patriots fan. Hope they lose today.
I have like a lot of comments on it. It's so interesting, the perspective, like in other, like with other teams, quote, journalists.
Oh my God.
I mean, yeah, it got ratioed. I was one of the quote tweets. It's so interesting to me because for those that don't know, the three of us are Mizzou J school grads. So like we like we have the journalism. We take the journalism thing pretty seriously. Like, and it's just always interesting when you see another team's beat writer just being an outright fan. Like Arkansas has this problem too, where like all their beat writers are fanboys. It always irks me. Like that in general is always so icky to me. When people covering the team are doing that, and then you go back and look at it. I mean, he didn't to not even take the parentheses score part out. That is just flat lazy. Like that is so bad. Like obviously that's where he was like, okay, I got to put the score in there later. How do you not take that out after a day of that being up? I mean, the CFP dream isn't dead. That's a pretty outlandish thing to say to lead. Started out like another special. I mean, it just is writing. It's like fanfic. It's really.
It looks like a message board post. That's
yeah,
what
it's
it
really.
is.
I don't
It's a
like.
big message board.
It's written like a fan. I think if you're a beat writer, you should never ever ever write something like that. Never write like a fan. Definitely never say loser Tiger fan base or Eli. That is Drinkwitz, man. You are not on a first name basis with the head coach of a team you don't cover. I very very weird. I don't. It's always interesting to see the other teams beat writers because that does not happen with Missouri, and I think that's great that it doesn't happen with Missouri.
I can sympathize slightly with the leaving the score thing in. I have done that before. Not for a
after
day.
24 hours.
I have done that before, but yeah. Does he not know his space bar works? There's just like after the subheads, there's no spaces.
Ellipses are the space bar.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, rough. You get this happening sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
I
Maybe
would like to know.
Maybe it's being mean, but like I kind of think this is something that warrants it.
Some tells me he was wearing a Boston College polo in the press box if he was even there. So. Oh, Kevin. Tough look for the guy. That was really funny when I read that, though, Kenny. Great headline. Payton, what's your headline of the week?
My headline is going to be Texas A&M Aggies dominate Florida Gators for first SEC win. Just another day at the office for Billy Napier and co. They got totally shut out in the first half. It was 20-0 at halftime. And A&M wasn't even at full strength. Their backup quarterback, Marcel Reed, was the one starting, and he lit Florida up. He had 3 touchdown passes in his first college start. It was a 33-20 win. It really wasn't even that close. I think we're really at the point where we have to start counting the time left in Billy Napier's tenure in days rather than weeks, let alone months. It's just a nasty situation. Mike Elko thoroughly outcoached. I mean, it was just night and day, the coaching. I mean, Florida gave up a 99-yard drive that took up the final 8 minutes of the half. I think Texas A&M threw the ball 2 times. It was just a thorough beatdown. I believe Florida is 0-7 in their last 7 games against FBS opponents. Yeah, I mean, ESPN, this article even is already talking about Florida potentially firing Napier. If Florida does fire Napier, Napier's buyout would be roughly $26 million, according to this ESPN article. That's kind of where we're at. And I mean, people have been already talking about like who would maybe replace him. You know, Lane Kiffin is a name that comes up in that scenario. I've seen Jed Fish. I think we'd be doing a little bit of a disservice to not at least throw out that Drinkwitz would at least be mentioned in that conversation. But that's kind of what it is at Florida. It's messy.
My favorite part of this is the graph below that says the low point for Napier might have come at halftime Saturday. As teams were leaving the field, Napier was shown on the big screen for a pre-taped public service announcement to prevent drinking and driving. Napier was wildly booed during it. He was booed again as he ran into the locker room after a TV interview. Booed after a don't drink and drive PSA, man. That is a tough go. That is a tough go.
When you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. And that's my only take on all of this Florida situation.
That's
a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, Mertz, I guess, was the better quarterback yesterday, but everyone at this point kind of just wants to see the young guy. It's just Napier has just been kind of that tenure has just kind of been a mess from day one. I mean, you had the whole thing with the reporter. in his year one saying, I'll outlast Billy Napier here. It's just felt like the last 2 years have been waiting for Billy Napier to be fired. And that does appear to be coming sooner rather than later.
They need a culture change. I'm sticking the SEC for my headline of the week. Number 1 Georgia Bulldogs wake up, outlast Kentucky Wildcats. Yeah, that's just the headline. I don't really have anything specific with the article. Georgia almost lost to Kentucky. Kentucky did their best 2022 Mizzou impression. They ended up winning 13-12, which is a just gross scoreline, no matter what teams are playing. And Georgia got punished for this today. We actually, while we've been recording, the AP poll came out. Georgia's number 2 now. Texas, the new number 1 team in the nation. Mizzou did get jumped to by Tennessee. Mizzou's number 7. Side note, but yeah, Georgia obviously doesn't have to play Mizzou, but looked shaky. We've got some teams looking bad, some good teams looking bad early on in college football.
If you were going to ask me what my concern level was for Georgia, it would be about a 0. They do this once a year. They did it with Missouri in 2022. They did it with Auburn and Missouri last year. And really, even Missouri then was ranked, and it was just different. It was still a 2-possession win for Georgia, and this was just this year. I mean, Kentucky played way above their heads. Georgia still found a way to get it done. They'll be down at number 2 for a few weeks. Eventually, they're going to play Texas. Is that game at Samford or is it in Darrell K?
I actually don't know.
That'll be a game. I wonder if that'll get game day. I'm really curious about that. But I mean, Georgia does have quite the schedule. It is at Texas, so that could be number 1 versus number 2. But first, Georgia's got Alabama coming up. They got to bye and then Alabama. So that'll be must watch. Georgia's schedule is just punishing. I mean, they got Tennessee later. They got to play at Ole Miss, at Texas, at Alabama. If Georgia comes out of this season unbeaten, quite frankly, we might as well just hand them the trophy when we get to the playoff, because that is just an absurd schedule.
Oh, these stats are gross.
No, Dominic Lovett, 6 catches for 89 yards.
He's been playing really well, I think. I think he's like their leading receiver. So,
well, I wonder why that would be. What happened to Ra Thomas?
That's a good point. Yeah, Georgia's a little bit they're still scary, but they did have a little bit of scare against Kentucky. They were just doing their usual Georgia thing. That was all I had as Kenny's checking to see if Dominic Lovett's been good. He has. That's all I got. Do you have a joke for us, Mr. Payton?
I sure do, guys. This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Here's a good one for you guys. Guys,
humor jokes.
What kind of bird works on a construction site?
A Maine bird?
No.
A hawk.
No. Think about it, guys. Come on.
Oh my God.
Put a little effort here. You can get it.
I like no capping. He's the main bird.
A crane.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, no, I like no capping. He's the main bird.
A crane. There you go.
Good one. All right. We'll be back on Friday previewing Vandy. So until then, enjoy your week. Enjoy being 3-0. And then we're going to get to talk about mine and Kenny's favorite quarterback for a little bit. So
who just lost to Georgia State, but we'll get
all right.
into.
Well, listen, we don't need to. We can ignore that result, although we can't because we're going to talk Vandy. Anyway, we'll be back to do that Friday. Until then, enjoy the week. Goodbye.